Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network.
I'm always caught dancing like you. I'm like, oh no, this is serious time. I should stop dancing. And then next thing you know, I'm the Caddyshack gopher.
That's
there you
right.
go. Exactly. Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
worse things to be.
Wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are many worse things to be. So we were talking before we got on about your thoughts on Prigozhin and Wagner and whether or not you think they were going for the coup. They were this close.
Yeah, well, that's very true. I've got some thoughts on this. I've had thoughts on it since the moment that I heard about this. First, let's get some things straight. Prigozhin, who is one of Putin's closest, oldest cronies, he was literally his chef. He was a restaurateur that when Putin was deputy mayor of St. Petersburg after he quit the KGB, who was liquidating every asset of the city, from bike racks to train stations, seaports. And that's what got Putin to be a multi-billionaire. But you can't do that on an empty stomach. Prigozhin had the mafia restaurant that Putin was eating at with all of his mafia and KGB buddies. And that catapulted him to being the supplier of all food to every school in Russia for school lunches and breakfasts, and then the supplier of all food to the Russian army. That's when he got the job also to be the dirty tricks guy of Putin. So Malcolm, why do I need to know that? Emphasis on dirty tricks.
Uh-oh, he froze.
Prigozhin believes in a much tougher, harder line than Putin.
Right.
Much tougher. So at some point, he got into his head after creating the mercenary group PMC Wagner, the Blackwater of Russia, which has been operating for nearly a decade. He got into his mind that Putin just wasn't executing the war hard enough. His guys were being massacred. Some of my team members in the International Legion took part in that massacring in Bakhmut, so we're very proud of that. And he thought the Russian army were just a bunch of slackers, and that Wagner mercenaries and prisoners, and the mass murderers that were filling it, should be the lead force in the Russian army. But the Russian army stopped giving them ammunition, stopped giving them artillery, stopped giving them fire support while they were being wiped out in Bakhmut. And Prigozhin got it into his head that he should just overthrow the government and do it right. So if Wagner had pulled out and gone to Moscow and overthrown Putin, which was entirely possible. By the way, this started as a mutiny.
Right.
It never got to coup d'etat.
Right.
So a mutiny is when you leave. And they marched on Moscow, and at some point, Prigozhin decided to sell them out.
Yeah, because they're going to be members of the army now.
Today.
Yeah, because they're going to be conscripted into the Russian army. Correct.
Contracted, yes.
Yes, contracted.
On July 1st, all of Wagner, by order of the Kremlin, was going to go under the Russian army, who they had been bad-mouthing and stealing ammunition and weapons from forever. But then they didn't want to go into the army. And I suspect that Prigozhin used that march on Moscow as a relief valve and was also telling Putin, I can be your controlled opposition now. I know everyone in my organization that's against you, and everyone who would join on this march is against you.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Generals, whatever. And I can bring this down to a soft landing for a particular pecuniary dollar amount and the transfer of most of my hardcore Wagner guys to Belarus. And Putin bought it. We don't know if there was a dollar amount, but there's a reason Prigozhin didn't fall out of a Russian Il-76 transport plane at 45,000 feet. And that reason is he got bought.
Right. Well, I mean, would it have been... Do you think... I don't know how to put this. Because I was down in San Diego for a memorial when all this started, and like on Saturday one thing was going on, and by Sunday it was a completely different story.
Right.
And
you're way too broad in your days. It was Saturday morning one thing was going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Saturday by noon, it had completely flipped on its head.
Yeah, I was like, it was very strange to turn on the news and just what happened. You know,
It's
all
over?
yeah, it's all yeah. It was exactly. And having, I mean, had he done the coup, would he have been worse for Ukraine than Putin and his army, or would it be a wash?
Well, I think it would have been better for Ukraine, to tell you the truth,
Okay.
in the short run. Prigozhin's whole argument is that Wagner could prosecute the war better.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing he did was he went to the headquarters of the Southern Military District, which is the command post for all Russian forces in Ukraine, and took it over. Physically took possession of that headquarters and all the military, the communications,
And the shitty
everything.
things.
Yeah,
The
so
shooty things, yes.
the Ukrainian army is bombarding the Russian army. Behind the Russian army is a boatload of mercenaries that are now about to do a 1917 2.0 by marching on Moscow and turning Putin into the Romanovs,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm sorry, not the Romanovs. Okay, one of those, yes. And quite possibly killing Putin, killing his family. The real question that I had at the time was, who was going to remain in control of the nuclear arsenal?
Yeah.
Would it split? Would he seize atomic bombs that are in the Southern Military District and declare himself a nuclear power separate from Russia? Crazy things were going on.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, and this is what my last two Black Man Spot video casts are about, where I try to explain it, and I'm going to explain it every day. Apparently, he sold Wagner out, and now he's going under the army to be cannon fodder, precisely as the story started.
Right. So yeah, they're not getting anything from this at all. The people that are still there.
Killed.
Yeah.
They're going to get killed.
They're going to get killed with the shooty things.
Yeah, shooty bangy things.
The shooty
Ukrainians got plenty of it.